Good evening, and welcome to the Fort Smith City Board of Directors meeting this August the 6th, year 2024. Year's moving by quickly. And here we are again. Thank you for being here to join us this afternoon. Keep in mind that these meetings are being televised live for our residents who cannot attend in person. At this point, I'm going to ask Director Jared Rigo to lead the invocation and Director Andre Good to lead us in the pledge.
Please join me in a word of prayer. Lord, we come before you tonight grateful for the opportunity to serve. We ask that you continue to bless our community, continue to present us with opportunities to serve. We ask, Lord, that a spirit of truth and a spirit of comedy reign, and we're just so very, very grateful for this opportunity. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. This time, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Director Rigo.
Here.
Good.
Here.
Morton.
Here.
George Katavas. Christina Katavas. Here. Settle.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Okay, thank you very much. This time, I'll ask if there's any board members that may have an item of discussion that's not already on the agenda. Okay, thank you. This time, we'll ask for approval of the July 23rd, 2024 regular minutes.
So moved.
Second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, thank you. This time we'll go to the first item on the agenda.
Tonight's first agenda item is an ordinance zoning identified property and amending the zoning map concerning property at 8202 Veterans Avenue. Speaking to this is our Deputy City Administrator, Maggie Rice.
On July 9th, the Planning Commission held a public hearing to consider rezoning property located at 8202 Veterans Avenue. The property contains approximately 0.27 acres and is located on the west side of Veterans. Approval of the item will facilitate the reconstruction of a 199-foot tall commercial communication tower at the same site. A neighborhood meeting was held on Thursday, June the 27th. One property owner was in attendance with construction-related questions. Mr. Stephen Smith was present to represent this item. There were none present to speak in favor or opposition, and the Planning Commission voted 8 in favor with 0 opposed to recommend the zoning map be amended.
Okay. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, did anyone sign up to speak on this item?
Stephen Smith, he's the applicant, and he's just here to answer any questions anybody may have.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for being here, Mr. Smith. This time we'll entertain a motion to adopt the ordinance with suspension of the rules.
So moved with suspension of the rules. Second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please read the ordinance.
An ordinance zoning identified property and amending the zoning map at 8202 Veterans Avenue.
Okay, thank you. This time we'll entertain board member comments. Okay, thank you. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please.
No.
I'm sorry, I missed you, Levon. Levon Martin, you're recognized.
Okay, so I'm always interested in these towers when they're located close to residential areas, and this one is actually very close. However, I drove out there yesterday, and there is a tower already there. And the one that's there is very tall, and so I guess I'm interested in a few more details, Maggie, about this project and what's different from what's already there.
Yes, sir. So the height will remain the same. The carrier is requesting to remove the existing tower and replace it with one that will structurally be able to handle more platforms. So there will be more platforms for more carriers, and that is the reason for reconstruction.
Well, and it will be a straight-up tower, not the Eiffel Tower sort of structure?
Yes, sir. It'll be a monopole.
Okay. So, I mean, I have no objection to this. I think it's fine.
Are there any more comments from the board? Okay, seeing none, please call the roll.
Director Good.
Yes.
Morton.
Yes.
George Katavas.
Yes.
Christina Katavas.
Yes.
Settle.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Rego.
Yes.
Approved, 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
This time we'll ask for a motion to adopt the emergency clause.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Director Morton.
Yes.
George Katsavas.
Yes.
Christina Katsavas.
yes,
Settle.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Rego.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Approved, 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Okay, thank you very much. This time we'll go to item number 2.
Thank you. Item number 2 is an ordinance regarding participation in local government cooperative purchasing arrangement. Coming to the podium is our purchasing manager, Ali Bassoon, and our purchasing manager, Charity Gregory. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Board. First of all, I wanted to introduce my replacement, Mrs. Charity Gregory. She has extensive purchasing and governmental purchasing experience, and I'm personally very pleased that she was hired and selected to replace my position. And I can assure you moving forward that you will be in good hands. So I wanted to formally introduce her to you this evening.
Welcome.
Welcome, welcome.
The item presented before you is merely to update some language in a previously approved ordinance that was approved back in '93 regarding the cooperative purchasing agreement. Initially, when the ordinance was approved, it was merely geared towards piggybacking on the state of Arkansas cooperative contracts. But since then, that has expanded, so we had to update some of the language. And so presented before you is a revised ordinance that gives us more flexibility to be able to participate with other cooperative agencies that are made available. As you may very well know, the benefits of cooperative purchasing agreements is first and foremost cost savings. And basically this process goes through the same process that the city would use in terms of soliciting bids, advertising, and opening bids, and then presenting them to you for approval. So that whole process has been vetted and has been done on our behalf so that we don't have to go through that process once again. And again, most importantly, the price savings, because you have a pool of vendors that participate and compete against each other, so it drives the prices down and makes it more feasible for us to be able to participate and use those cooperative programs. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, did anyone sign up to speak on this item?
None indicated.
This time we'll entertain a motion to adopt the ordinance with suspension of the rules.
So moved with suspension of the rules.
Second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please read the ordinance.
An ordinance regarding participation in a local government cooperative purchasing.
Okay, this time we'll have comments from the board. Okay, seeing none, please call the roll.
Director George Katsavas.
Yes.
Christina Katsavas.
yes,
Settle.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Rego.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Morton.
Yes.
Approved, 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Need a motion to adopt the emergency clause.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Christina Katsavas.
yes,
Settle.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Rego.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Morton.
Yes.
George Katsavas.
Yes.
Approved, 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
This time we'll go to item number 3.
Mayor McGill, if you don't mind, might say a few words, please.
Absolutely.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
It's with a heavy heart that I am sharing with you that this will be my last regular board meeting, and I just wanted to let you know that it has been truly an honor serving the citizens of Fort Smith. I've been in the procurement role for 26 years and have been with the city a total of 30 years. And so I'm truly blessed to have worked for an amazing city. And I'm excited for the future of Fort Smith.
Thank you.
I know the city is in great hands with your leadership. I urge you to work together and join hands and make it the best it can be for the citizens of Fort Smith. So thank you again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'll ask if any board members would like to say anything to Ali as he wraps up his final regular meeting. Okay, we'll start. Director Rigo.
Well, I just, Ali and I have developed a friendship over the years, and the kindness you've shown my family, the support, particularly going through Kate's brain surgery over the last few months. You're just a very incredible person, and I'm going to miss you living here. I'm going to miss being your friend on a day-to-day basis, an in-person basis. But understand the call of family well, and I know that you're going to have a great time in Florida, and we're really grateful for you, my friend.
Director Good.
Thanks, Mayor. Ali, just want to say thank you for your friendship. You have an amazing family. Thank you for sharing some of your deepest, most heart-kept, feelings and things with me, and allowing me to do the same. We've had, good times to talk about things outside of city business, and I really appreciate that. But the one thing that I keep smiling about, as you were saying your goodbye, was you telling me and sharing with me the story of how you started with the city. And that alone, if people haven't heard that story, maybe he can tell you sometime, or maybe I can share it with you. But it's just another affirmation that he was the right man for this job at the right time, and even now. Thanks, Ali.
Director LaVon Morton.
Well, certainly, Ali, I want to thank you for your many years of service to the city. I'm someone who pays a lot of attention to details, or I try to, and especially when money's involved. And over the 5 years I've been on the board, I've asked you a lot of questions. I've always gotten very well-informed, thoughtful, accurate responses, and I appreciate that very much. And I guess a really good example of your excellent work is in our most recent board meeting, when you did not accept the first look at our roof repairs and really dug into it, and with the result that we will have enough money to repair the roofs rather than half enough money to repair the roofs. So thank you for that and for all the other things you've done. Thank you.
Okay. Director Savage, any comments?
Yeah, I just want to say, Ollie, thank you.
Turn your microphone. There you go.
Ollie, I want to say thank you. All my years on the board, you've earned my trust. When you said this is the price of this, or this is what we can do, I took your word for it because I trusted you, and that means a lot to me. And you did a good job. And your replacement, I think she's going to do a good job too. I wish she could meet all the directors and stuff and introduce herself. But thank you for everything.
Okay, thank you, Director Christina Savage.
So, Ollie, certainly I want to thank you for your years of service, and I know the city's better for them. Just for me personally, when I took office in January of 23, I came into it knowing, a lot of people in the administration didn't want me here, and I went around, I met with all the department heads, and you were one of the first people that I met with. And you treated me with such a kindness and respect that it really kind of set the tone for me going forward. And so I don't know if you even remember that conversation, but I look back on it really very fondly. So thank you for that. I really appreciate you.
Director Settle.
Thank you, Mayor. Ollie, you've seen it all the past 30 years here in the city, and your knowledge will be missed greatly. And when we look at how city employees should, have respect and look how you treat everybody, you're the top of the line. You're the one that everybody should model themselves after. So we're greatly missed, and I hope you have a good fortune down in Florida and have a good time. Thank you, sir.
Director Neil Martin.
Ollie, I'm envious. I'm envious of you getting to retire. I look forward to those days. But I want to thank you for your service. One thing, when I first started in 2019, I didn't really know much of the staff, but That Christmas, Ollie sent me a Christmas card, and he wrote a note in there. And I really appreciated that. I appreciated you thinking of me during that time. And that just shows you the kindness and the warmth that you have that everybody spoke about up here. So thank you for your service. Enjoy your time, and come back and visit us.
Okay, thank you very much. I've known Ali for a long time. Met his family, his wife, when I was in the financial services business. They were part of my early client base, and I had an opportunity to meet him and understand the character, the kindness, the generosity. And when I came in office, first person that showed up to say welcome was Ali. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. This time we will go to item number 3 on the agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 3 is actually 2 items related to the Parrot Island Waterpark. Item 3A is a resolution authorizing execution of a lease agreement, an agreement concerning the aquatics facility at Ben Geren Regional Park between the City of Fort Smith and Sebastian County related to Parrot Island Waterpark. The item 3B is an ordinance declaring an exceptional situation and waiving the requirements of competitive bidding for the purchase of a water slide complex for Parrot Island Waterpark through American Resort Management. This particular item has been well discussed over the last couple of weeks at board meetings and at quorum court meetings. Mr. Gefkin has spent extensive amount of time discussing with County Judge Steve Holtz the particulars of the lease agreement that's before you. The one that is laid out on your desk is the most complete and updated version. I couldn't tell you exactly what is different between this version and maybe the last version you saw in email, but the one that's here is the most up-to-date version. The objective through this process is for the city administration to provide options to the board to consider going forward in terms of this, of how the water park operates and then in the future and how it may be expanded. So with that, I'll turn it to the board for discussion.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, do we have any citizens to speak on this item?
We have several.
Okay. Would you, if you would you read the protocol on their ability to speak in times, etc.?
Those willing to speak individually will have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. And the first person?
The first person we have is Melissa Woodall.
Hi, I'm Melissa Woodall. The city and the county weren't failing to meet eye to eye on daily things like the day-to-day operations and the marketing in the park. The button of heads has just come with the expansion plans for the park. So the only freedom taking on double the financial responsibility for the park would buy the city is the opportunity to spend even more money on it. And that doubled spending plus the spending on the expansion would still be paying for a facility that we still wouldn't even own in full. If the county were saying that they just wanted to wash their hands of it, walk away, deed it to us and be done, that might be a different discussion. But doubling our financial burden just for a lease on something we already own half of would be ridiculous.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk?
The next person we have is Tara McDaniel.
Hi. I'm here today because it concerns me that the city would be responsible for the full share of expansion starting at $4.2 million. There are many other existing city projects that the general fund could go to, such as necessary upgrades to the free parks and other areas of concern include the lack of confidence in Animal Haven and major sewer issues. I would agree that there are many other parks that this money could be put towards upgrades and the Acme space as well. These are free to our poor citizens that have full access to them. Meanwhile, the water park is asking for taxpayer dollars to fund a project that not all can afford to attend. A family of my size would pay $91.76. This is not easy for all citizens. Ergo, this is a luxury expense, not for all the people that live here. Opponents would say that this expansion would increase attendance from people outside of Fort Smith, and this is something to consider yet again. Would the price of admission even begin to recover that $4.2 million? I do have friends that sometimes visit our park, but they live nearby and they don't often go to our motels and they don't eat at our restaurants. Can we guarantee that park goers will even recover part of this $4.2 million? Over how much time? If the city has full financial responsibility for the park, how much more money are we throwing down the drain for the upkeep? These are hard questions to answer, and the uncertainty of these answers should be enough to allow common sense to tell you that this does not feel like a good investment for our city.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk?
Next, we have Denise Gordon Johnson.
Hello, I am Denise Gordon Johnson, and my concern is this. It disheartened me to know that all these monies are going to a park, a water park, that's only open 4 months in the year. Being that I'm born and raised here in Fort Smith, I grew up in the Elm Grove area, the park, north side of town. And like the late Mary would say, life is worth living in Fort Smith. That could be questionable. Where in Fort Smith? North side, south side, east side, whatever. I would like to see this happen at Elm Grove Park with all the monies that is available. Give us back our swimming pool. Give us back the little dance floor and the jukebox and the snack bar. Everything else is there, but those are the vital parts that we miss, you know, as children and as adults. We need to go there and be able to do these things. We can't, that's not offered to us, and I pray that you all really would consider this and build up north side of town. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk.
Next, we have Joe Elskin.
I think I'm going to yield my time to Rick. Everybody knows how I feel. Yeah. I think you missed him, or
He's next. He submitted after you. Yes.
Okay. All right. Everybody knows how I feel. I'm Joe Elskin. I've sent you all emails. I hope you read them. I don't want to repeat what other people have said. I just wanted to stand and say that, yes, thinking about this kind of expansion to me is not necessary right now. And sometimes spending money because there's a good deal still means you're spending money. So the $600,000 that the EPA needs, let's cheerfully send it to them, and just take care of business in other parts of the city, because you know how I feel about connecting with the north side of town, connecting with people who need a little bit extra project concern, people who need things done. So, thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Madam Clerk.
Next, we have Rick Murphy.
Dr. Murphy, good to see
you. Thank you. In 2012 and 2013, agreement was approved for the city and the county to enter into a joint undertaking for the construction and operation of an aquatic facility. I strongly advocate that the board table the ordinance tonight and pursue further discussion with the county on continuing half ownership of Parrot Island with the county. The allocation of funding for $4.2 million of slides on the tailcoat of increased water expenses is distasteful timing. Why does the county want out of the 2012 agreement? No one should be surprised that Parrot Island doesn't pay for itself, except for ostriches. Fort Smith already undertaking the renovation of Creekmore Pool, which is much more affordable and accessible for the north side of town rather than Parrot Island? What is the target population of Parrot Island? Who has been using Parrot Island? What do the patrons come? Where do the patrons come from? Does Parrot Island enhance the attractiveness of Fort Smith? As the saying goes, words are cheap. Talking about other arrangements is much less expensive than Fort Smith allocating $4.2 million for the slides and having sole responsibility for Parrot Island, which at this point should be renamed Albatross Island.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, anyone else?
No more.
Okay. Okay. At this time, we entertain a motion to adopt the resolution.
So moved.
Are we going to adopt 3A and 3B, or do you want to do them separate?
Separate. I would like to do them separate.
I'd say we do 3B first, and if it fails, then 3A is irrelevant.
What's the wishes of the board?
Wouldn't they both be irrelevant if you
No,
didn't
I
pass
think 3A is still relevant regardless
Yeah,
of the fate
I do
of
too.
3B.
I have some questions on
Yeah, okay.
that.
Let's follow the order
Okay.
on the agenda.
Okay, 3A.
And we'll discuss 3A. Need a motion to adopt the resolution. We have that. A second?
Second.
Okay. Now, at this time, we will entertain the director's comments, and we'll start with
None? Well, go ahead. Go ahead.
Director Good.
Okay, I'll start. Okay, I'll start, but this is not going to be, I'm sure, the only time that I speak, because I want to address the people that came to the mic first. Ms. Woodall, we did receive your email. Thank you for always being so involved with what we do. You know, this is one of those issues that I can't say that I wholeheartedly agree with your discontent with the board moving forward, but there are reasons why I feel as though we should. You know, I did attend the county meeting myself with Carl Gifkin and Director Settle, and to be quite honest, the attitude of part of the quorum court was that of just a political mindset where almost half were supportive, but more than half were against. You have to realize that, of course, I know you realize that, you know, we are in a very political environment. So they have agendas, and part of that agenda with some are legitimate, of course, with real concerns of how to fund raises for their employees, other issues like a jail that is still multi-millions, I believe upwards to 80, 90, I can't remember the cost of the jail that they were proposing. Kevin, do you remember that?
It went from 50 to 80, just like that.
50 to 80 million dollars. And of course, you know, there's also, you know, litigation that might be looming. So there are reasons why the county is not supportive of moving forward with this with the city. The other thing was the statement that the water park isn't for everyone. And that is absolutely a fact. There are many items that taxpayer dollars pay for that a lot of people just don't want to take part of. It's open for everyone and anyone, but the fact of the matter is, it just doesn't float everyone's boat. You know, neither does, you know, basketball or any other amenity that we have in the park. You know, going to the convention center, going to any of the things that the convention center hosts. You know, tax dollars are tax dollars that are paid not just for every individual to take a part, but the opportunity is there if they so choose. The biggest thing is the tax dollars are for supporting the benefit and welfare of the citizens and the city moving forward. And the city is just not a municipality. It is a business. And in any business, monies have to be invested. And again, making that investment, we talk about business sense. You know, it was asked, what is the return on our investment? Well, the return on your investment is not always financial. The return on the investment could be entertainment. It can be growth. It's a number of things. It's not always financial. So because the water park, Parrot Island, is not producing a large return on the investment financially, doesn't mean that it's not having a return on investment. Because I can assure you, the couple of times that I have been there during dark water, to see these youth and parents come out and support and pay a premium fee for $2 for 2 hours at Parrot Island, and the park is full, is absolutely amazing. So it is very much used in doing some speaking with community, younger folks and old, just this week. Of course, there were people that were against moving forward, but the majority of the youth and business folks, even those downtown that I spoke to, said, yes, it's a no-brainer. No, I don't want to have to pay, the whole amount of the $4.2 million for the expansion of Parrot Island, but because of the attitude and the decisions of the quorum court, if we were to take advantage of this, it would take the city stepping up. And of course, I wouldn't even think that I would want to move forward with it if we didn't have the money and the affirmation from administration that we had the money to do this, and how we were going to do it in part or in full in terms of years and how many years we were going to make the payment. I'm going to quit rambling for a minute, but again, it's not even a really hard decision for me. Is it a lot of money? Yes. Could the money be used elsewhere? Absolutely. I'll give you an example. One of the issues that I had read was, well, why don't we spend this $4.2 million on the shortage of water while we have to raise the rate? So why not pay the $4 million to help minimize that rate? Well, in all actuality, the rate should pay for the service anyway, so we shouldn't have to subsidize it anyway. And the $4.2 million will be a drop in the bucket for what's needed for capital and ongoing expenses. So the impact of that $4 million, if we were to put it towards the shortage of water, the water money used for the water rate increase, that impact would be gone within the first year. The second year, we would still be right where we are this time next year. So the impact is greater at this facility than it would be any other place. Parks is doing fine. We have taxpayer dollars, federal and state, that help us with parks. We're not taking money from any other area of city, of the city doing its work. Thank you. I'll be back.
Director Rigo.
Thank you, Mayor. Some comments were brought up regarding, not only in the comments tonight, but online. I've seen things about, what's the customer base look like? A lot of anecdotal commentary about, well, people don't come from here, or people don't do that, or I don't know anybody who goes, things like this. And the numbers, and these are right, straight up facts, current for this year, 70% of the users so far to date at Parrot Island have come from outside of Fort Smith. Highest percentage, 31% from Northwest Arkansas, 21% from Oklahoma City, 15% from Little Rock, and 3% from Texas. So it doesn't take much to see when you see these numbers that when folks are coming in from outside of our city, they are doing more things in our city from the standpoint of spending money than just staying at Parrot Island with their dollars, keeping their dollars just into the park there. I mean, that's an enormous, seeing the figures today was really eye-opening to me, that the gap was that substantial, that it was that much of an attraction. And I understand that sometimes when you live in a place with an attraction, there's the wallpaper effect that goes on. You don't even realize, it's there for you every day. You might get to it sometime, or maybe you don't go much at all. It's I mean, you hear people that live in coastal communities who, oh boy, I haven't been to the beach in a while, things like this. It's really, really striking when you see the tens of thousands of people that have come from outside our city to this amenity. So that's just an interesting point of fact to reflect on. And then when you talk about the process, we have a professional management company that we're contracted with to run the water park and to do the best possible job that they can of running a water park. So staffing, industry trends, keeping up with best practices. And they approached us saying, we think this would be a good opportunity for us to continue to excel. This wasn't some thing made up or pulled up out of thin air, or we're sitting up here scanning through the classified sections, circling stuff with a pen and a highlighter, and ooh, looks like there's a deal on some slides. It just doesn't work that way. And the last thing I'll say at present is I think the tone of the conversation is genuinely a fascinating one, because we can do and are doing many things. It's been mentioned the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars that have been invested in our park system in the last few years that we can all see. New equipment, new walking trails, new amenities. Just when the tone of the conversation should not, I believe, occupy the space as though we're trying to decide how to spend the last $2 million we have before the ship sinks. That's just not the case. There's the funding to do this that does not have a negative impact upon other opportunities and other investments in the community. And so the real conversation is, are we a city that invests in ourselves and reinvests in ourselves, or do we argue amongst ourselves about investment? Thank you.
Thank you. Director Settle.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Board. I'm going to speak, as Director Good says, I'm going to speak a little bit what happened at the Quorum Court meeting. Director Good, Carl, and myself, and the team from ARM were there. And it was apparent that the priorities of the county have changed. As one director, as one Quorum Court member said, they want to get out of the water park business. They just want out. Just give it to them. Is that what was said, Director Good? Just give it to them. There wasn't a, hey, we need to get paid for this. Just give it to them. The city can take it over. So what's for us is a lease opportunity for us to continue the great job for the past 10 years Parrot Island has done for the citizens of Fort Smith. Reminds me of a kid that I know that when it first opened up, he went to the park. Then he became a lifeguard at the park. Then he became a college student while lifeguard at the park. Now that kid's a teacher at one of our schools today. That's the power of what can happen. You're not just looking at dollars and cents. You're transforming kids' lives. Transforming teenagers that need someone to do in the summertime. You're transforming families that have 4 kids and go to the water park, and so those kids have something to do. Do I like to get off the county? But the county says they're not interested, and so what will happen is we will never get an expansion again. And this is how we continue to move the ball forward. We're going to be an international city starting the end of this year. Those people coming to us are going to want to bring their families in the summertime, want something for those kids to do, those families to do. The only people we haven't heard from is the voiceless, the kids. I bet we could go to bring every kid that goes to Parrot Island and ask them if they want slides, and every kid that goes there will say yes. Almost 90,000 people have attended Parrot Island Waterpark already this year. It's made a profit every year except for the COVID year. So to me, this is an easy solution. We've allocated 2.1 in this year's budget. Tonight, we're just asking to put the down payment. We're going to get into 2025 budget. We can allocate the rest in that budget. It gives us time to sharpen the pencils with Drew and the team. Does the money come down? Can we work some things out? It does allow for us to keep moving the ball forward. But this isn't something that's going to come back to us and say, hey, 3 months, hey, we think we can do it now. Is the slides there? The slides will be gone. So just to give everybody a perspective, one slide is $1.5 million. That's what the quote is to put another slide on the green slide right now. $1.5 million to put one slide on the green tower. If you put 5 slides, work that out, that's $7.5 million. The tower itself We're probably between the tower itself for the green slide was $555,000. Up for inflation, you're probably talking $750,000. So you're at $8.25 million plus installation, so you're going to be roughly $9 million. And we're going to get it for $4 million. Sometimes you got to do what's in front of you because it's the best for the city. It's the best for the citizens, and it's the best for the kids and the families. And we become, as Director Martin said one time, a destination city. And that's what we'll become. I had an opportunity to visit some people in Little Rock, and I gave them some passes, and they were all excited to come to Fort Smith, to come to the Parrot Island. So that's all I got to say right now, Mayor. I'll have some more later. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director George Casavage. You were next.
Oh, I was?
Yeah.
Is anybody from the county here that could answer questions?
One in the back.
Who is it?
Lord Runyon.
Justice 213, Lord Runyon.
Well, is the judge not here or anybody from the county, Lori? Well, I mean, that's well, they're wanting us to approve a lease and they can't answer questions about it. That kind of strange. Anyway, Colby, this lease, this is meaningless, isn't it, right now? This hadn't been signed. It hadn't been notarized. Nothing. This is meaningless. It could change, right?
Well, it has not been executed. That's correct. It's
yeah,
a proposal.
If we approve this lease, it could change.
As far as I know, the county has not blessed it and approved it, so
yeah,
it's subject to the county's approval.
So this could be more terms and conditions applied to this if we approve this lease.
Well, subject to the county's input,
yeah.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, okay. Well, here's my question to the board. Lori, nothing with you, but why don't they just give us their half if they want out so bad?
I don't have that answer. Maybe that's part of it.
Well, you know, you think the county would you know, we're taking saving them millions of dollars. Think they'd have decency to show up and answer questions. Why not just give it to them? Say, here's our half. We want out.
Would you like to comment?
Or if we don't approve the slide tonight, are they still going to give us a 1-year lease? Or they going to pull it back and say, now we want to be partners again, that we're going to spend $2.1 million? You know, I'm against this. I think it's just plain insanity. I'd have nothing against the park. Kids love it. My granddaughter's gone there. She loves it. But we have other issues that money could pay for. Well, thank you. You know, I know I hear every day, a lot of people out there struggling just to pay the water, utilities, rent. You buy food, you're broke. You buy gas, you're mad. You go to the grocery store, you feel like you're being robbed. This is affecting everybody. And I don't think this is setting a good example for the city to spend this kind of money in this situation that this country's facing right now. You know, maybe down the road when things are different, possibly. But I'm still leery of this. You know, this is starting to remind me of the Chaffee ball fields. If we approve to send them 30% down payment, $1.2 million, and this lease changes or something changes, are we going to be out $1,200,000? You know, I've said enough, but I just think this is a bad idea.
Okay, thank you very much, Director Neil Martin.
So I requested the agreements between Fort Smith and Sebastian County back in 2012, and then there's an amendment in 2013. You know, it says that we would use tax resources in a cooperative and collaborative fashion to enhance and improve recreational programming, mutual interest of both government entities, collective benefit. There's also in this agreement, there's some softball fields as well. So, you know, all through here is talking about us working in a collaborative manner. And in this situation, I don't see us working in a collaborative manner. Well, actually, what's being asked is there is no collaboration. It's all the city. I have a couple questions. Right now, in our general fund budget, which this would be this $4.2 million would come out of the general fund budget. And Jeff, you might need to be able to answer this, or Mr. Richards, but we are projecting, as amended this year, a $29 million surplus in the general fund. Is that correct? Okay, I mean, that's what's on the June 30th. Okay, so shows that we got we will have, if everything goes according to budget, $29 million at the end of the year in the general fund. And we're operating in a deficit a little bit this year, but it's because we have a pretty good fund balance. I want to ask, what is, and I thought I heard this when we met last week, but what is the total cost? Is it 4.2 million? I think the ARM guys.
So the purchase slide's 2.5 million.
Okay.
And installation gets to about 3.4, and then all the ancillaries gets to 4.2.
Okay, so 4.2 is your top dollar. There's no additional.
That's not right.
What about the parking lot?
The park. That's not right.
That is the slide.
Director Neil Martin has the floor, please.
So it sounds like that the slides itself. If there's a parking lot, I think that's ancillary to this. But I wanted to make sure that 4.2 is what we're being asked for. But also, what about the softball fields? Softball fields are all part of this agreement. Do those come as a part of this lease, or do we turn those over to the county and say, we're done, we won't provide any additional funds for that?
No, this agreement is strictly related to the aquatics facility, and it specifies that other items not mentioned, not aquatics facilities, would still remain in place.
Okay, those are a couple of my questions. I'll hear the rest of the directors, but I'm coming at this from a cooperative and collaborative fashion, and that doesn't appear to be the case now.
Okay, thank you. Director LaVon Morton.
Okay, I'm going to go at this, and first the lease. The lease we have in front of us is actually a very good document, and if the county would sign it, it would serve the city well, subject to a couple of things. First of all, before we consider this lease, I'd like to know that they approved it. And second, I'd like to know the financial results of Parrot Island for 2019, 2022, and 2023, and the projected for 24. And I'd also like to know from our manager how much deferred maintenance there is on the park. So what are we looking at in 25 or 26 that we know we're going to have to do? So I think we have to know that before we really consider this lease, because in effect we're making a financial commitment. And the truth is, and someone said this, I think from the audience, the Parrot Islands never returned any money to the city or the county. We put the excess money in the maintenance fund, and from time to time there's not enough money in the maintenance fund, so we have to add. Both parties have to add funds. So Director Martin mentioned the 2012 lease, which I also read. Basically, it goes for 20 years. It goes to 2032. So if we do nothing tonight, the county will be obligated under a contract, an enforceable contract, to satisfy the financial obligations of the park until 2032, regardless of what those are. This lease is not in a form yet, and we're where we can really consider it. And again, I think we have to know the dollars for those periods of time before we can really understand what we're considering that we should do. Now, with respect to the slides, I voted yes on the $2.1 million, and I said we have the money to do that. And I still feel that way, and we could probably do a slight bit more than that. However, when you get much beyond that, you're getting into territory where we know there's going to be demand on the general fund for other things. We just spent $2 million on some real estate that was not in the budget for this year, and we had to appropriate the money at the last meeting. So, you know, and we know there are other things. We have some other considerations that we're going to have to do, and I still believe, and I've said it before, that the military is going to ask us to do things that we're not aware of yet. And so, in my view, $4.2 million is just too much. Now, if we could negotiate this down to a smaller number, and I have, you know, said to Administrator Gefkin, we should try that. I'd also like to know how much commission American Resource Management is making on this sale. And, you know, would they be willing to waive that commission if it exists, to try to get the cost down to something closer to the $2.1 million? Because, you know, the so-called other people on the sideline ready to buy this, if we didn't, have not emerged to the best of my awareness. And so I think we're probably the only game in town. We have a lot of leverage to perhaps get this down to a much more affordable cost. Now, and I realize $2.1 million is a lot of money. I think it's a good amenity. I think people do enjoy it. I'm a little bit, you know, I have mixed feelings about the 70% who come from outside the city. On the one hand, that's a good thing, but I also know if they drive here from Little Rock or they drive here from Northwest Arkansas, they turn around and go back the same day. And the only money the city of Fort Smith gets is whatever bit of sales tax that they get off the food, and I assume there is sales tax on the food at Parrot Island. There's not on the tickets.
That's correct.
So there's sales tax on the food. So we get a little bit of money there, but that's it. And so, and we keep those prices. We make no profit on the tickets because we keep the prices low on purpose, just to the point where we think it's the cost of operating the park, paying American Resource Management, and putting aside some for maintenance. So, you know, I can't support the $4.2 million. I just can't do it. Now, if we can negotiate something a lot smaller and bring back a lease that's been approved and a smaller number, then I would strongly entertain it again, because I want to do this amenity, but it's got to be affordable for the city.
Thank you very much.
Excellent comment. Excellent.
At this time, Director Good was next in the queue, but I'm going to ask him to yield to Director Christina Casavage, and then we'll come to you, Director Good.
You know, I understand that the county is, you know, rethinking their role in this, but that's why we have contracts, and we have a contract that they've signed with quite a few more years on it. And, you know, if they're at the point where they're throwing their hands up and wanting to give it back to the city, then they need to do that. It doesn't make sense to me for us to assume the burden of the infrastructure and the maintenance, and they still own half, and then on top of that, we're paying them to lease it. I mean, even if it's $1, that's $1 too much. I mean, we shouldn't be paying for that when we're assuming all the risk. You know, I was against this at 2.1. I'm against it at 4.2. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Good.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Board, for your discussion. So, the discussion. You know, I was told by a constituent that the citizens need to hear the discussions and the thoughts of the board, not just us making a vote, yes or no. This is that opportunity. So whether you agree with the statements that are being made, we're trying to make this a public conversation on the thoughts and processes and what happens that you guys might not be aware of, i.e. the county meeting, i.e. some board meetings, coffee with, well, whoever, dignitaries or public officials or whatever. Not to keep anything, you know, from the citizens at all. We're here to have this conversation. You know, being the City Director of Ward 2, you know, I want to thank Joe and Denise for bringing up, you know, the north side of Fort Smith, you know, and I've got to be very honest. You know, only the past few years since I've been on the board have I had a board supportive enough to even be involved with doing things and talking about some of the flooding issues and park issues on the north side. So I'm very appreciative of those changes. But that's politics, and that's what we're talking about here. You know, sometimes you don't have the agreements that you do either internally or externally between the city and the county. Sometimes we don't even have the same perspective on things we vote of, obviously. So that's one of the dynamics we have here. Ms. Johnson brought up wanting the pool back at Martin Luther King Park. That is one of the reasons why I even started thinking about serving on any commission, particularly the Parks Commission, before I got on the city board, because I saw what was not happening on the north side. So to say that, there are always and have been multiple public meetings where the citizens have been invited to come and take part in the decisions on what happens to our facilities. I was there during almost every single one of the parks meetings, and what was discussed was pool, splash pads, possible bridge across Greenwood so people can walk back and forth. I listened to it all. But the fact of the matter is, the citizens came to the city and the county. The county decommissioned the pool. This is a little bit of history. The county decommissioned the pool at Ben Geren Park, just like the city did with Martin Luther King Park. They were decommissioned by those two entities. Citizens wanted a replacement, whether it was a pool, splash pad, something. Give us something. Both entities gave the citizens something. So here we are. Might not be exactly what we asked for, but a lot of people, and I can vividly remember the feedback on Martin Luther King Park specifically, that if not the pool, splash pads, and other amenities like the skate park, which was still been a phase 1, was the ideal. We haven't ever come back with phase 2 of the skate park, or another phase of the possible park getting a pool, which was another phase 1 project. But of course, plans change, and so do politics. Things become more important, and things kind of fall out of focus. So, in saying all that, whether we are supportive of this or not, there is a history behind all this, and I'm not placating to we need to do this. I'm not saying that we need to do it. Should we do it, in my opinion? Yeah, we should. Is it one of those ouch moments? Well, it wouldn't be an ouch moment because we had board approval to pass the 2.1. Now the county voted not to support that. So now here we are. So do we make a move and move forward? Or do we just not move and just wait? Because we can always pivot, but like Director Settle alluded to, at some point we maintain the park, we improve it, we keep investing in it and ourselves. But if we do that at a future date, coming the next 5 to 10 years, that amount, and this is not scare tactics, the amount more than doubles. Thank you.
This time we'll go to Director Rigo.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I have just a couple things. The first one is a clarifying question from our attorney, Mr. Rowe, and it relates to, is there anything in the current lease, to the best of your understanding, or the current arrangement, if you will, the current contract, that precludes the city from making a 100% purchase on, this equipment, for instance?
Not that I'm aware of. So you're saying, could under the 2012 agreement and the 2013 amendment, would the city be precluded from going out on its own and buying an improvement 100%?
Correct.
I doubt that's precluded, but I doubt there's anything in that agreement that also obligates the county or either party to go, to be obligated to go 50% on additional improvements that weren't contemplated at the time of those agreements or amendments.
Thank you. So, I made my comments about the slides and the amenity overall a little bit ago. As it relates to the lease, I tend to be of the same mind as Director Morton with regards to, I just am not sure from a lease standpoint, I'm all that amenable to releasing the county from their legal obligation, and I'm certainly not necessarily amenable to us going first, particularly when we've received, staccato ding, ding, ding last week, 3 notifications from the county that they're looking to revisit our 2009 jail reimbursement agreement, our 1985 municipal court operations agreement, our 1979 county and city health center agreement. I just think that, when you're getting into a season like that, maybe you don't go first. And then the reminder that I will share with everyone is that, we did appropriate, a majority of this board did appropriate $2.1 million last month towards this project. And if we look at the memo that came to us tonight, 4.2 total on the slide complex. Down payment of 30% purchase price would be in the amount of 1.2, a little over $1.2 million. Quote, this down payment will secure the slides for the park and initiate the shipping of the slides to the park. And then, of course, there would be another 30% price due upon delivery. Remaining 40% of the purchase price would be due upon completion of the slide complex. And so, again, I think to Director Morton's point, I wonder if there's just not, if it wouldn't be prudent to just sort of table the conversation around the lease agreement and direct administration to utilize the funding that's already been appropriated to secure, make that earnest payment and secure the slides for us, and then we leave ourselves with a variety of options moving forward on, finishing the purchase in a more, I would say probably sensible manner down the road. And so, I certainly don't want to step on anyone's additional comments and curtail that time, but I do have a motion to that effect I'd like to make when the time's appropriate.
Thank you. Director Settle.
Jared, good thinking. That's kind of where I was going to go with both items. I think that we've already allocated 2.1, and so tonight if we can just get the down payment, then allow Andrew and the team to go sharpen the pencils and come back with a better number that gets us where we want to be. For future allocation would come out of the budget process in 2025 because the slides are going to be installed for next year. That does give us a lot of wiggle room, and I like your thought process on the lease too. So I think I'd be in favor of both those ideas, and we can move forward. As it's been said, the park isn't for Kevin or Andre or Jared. It's for the kids. It's for families. It's for visitors. We'll have the tallest slides in the state of Arkansas. We'll have the most slides in the state of Arkansas. We'll be the largest water park in the state of Arkansas. We're a destination city. Visitors come from everywhere, all over the world, are coming to us and see us. I remember last time Drew said there was a family reunion here from California to Florida, and they came to Parrot Island. Another way of looking at this, we did get $5 million back from the airport runway expansion. We got the money back, so that money can be used. Some of that money can be used for this expansion. And allow us to move forward. I did get Levon, and ARM did email me, text me Levon. ARM is not making $1 on this project at all. They're not getting any money on the slides, nothing at all, because the huge discount that they're doing. The slides are $2.5 million, so 30% of 2.5 to get it coming this way, that's $833,000 to start the process. So the way I look at this, that's what you really allocate instead of the 1.2, and then the process can start this way and get all the ancillaries coming this way. So that's where I'm at it, and I think Jared's ideas are good. We could table the lease and then vote on the slides, and we can just get the slide process coming this way, and then we can start figuring out, get better quotes and sharpen the pencils and see what we can do to make it better.
Okay. Next in the queue was Director Levon Morton, and then we'll go to Director Christina Casavage.
Well, I favor Director Rigo's point on really tabling the whole thing. I think that we definitely have to table the lease, and again, that's pending those financial numbers and also getting some indication that the quorum court has approved whatever lease whatever changes they make in the lease, and then we can negotiate something that comes back to the board for approval. We have to see the final lease for approval, the board. And I have no problem with trying to negotiate a lower price on on the slides, but I do not want to pay a down payment. I would say, we could make some kind of a deposit that would be refundable and held by a third-party trustee so that the money wouldn't go away. But I suspect we have the manufacturer in a bit of a tough spot. If they've already spent the money to manufacture these and they have no customer, then we might be able to negotiate a very much better deal than what's on what they propose to us right now. So I think we should give administration time to negotiate more. But if we can't come to a price that we think we can afford, then we say no. But we also should table this lease agreement and I think it is a completely separate consideration, because once we understand the financial situation, the county's in a position where they can stop us from doing anything at all in the future by just saying, no, we're not going to participate in half. Now, we have them tied to the maintenance, but there may be a point in time in the future, maybe not too far in the future, or maybe 2 years down the road, where we say we now have the money to comfortably expand the park, and we don't want the county saying no. So the lease makes sense to look at carefully and see if we can negotiate. Now, one thing we absolutely have to have is the ability to get more parking space if we do expand the park, because I understand it, we're kind of maxed out right now. So that would be my belief. We should table both of these things to the point where we hear from the county on the lease on the one hand, and we hear from and we get administration to really engage in some very strenuous negotiation with the owner of this manufacturer, try to get the price down to where it's something we can afford, which is not $4.2 million plus parking cost. So,
okay. Thank you, Director Christina Savage.
I feel like we're all having really short memories here. It was 2 weeks ago that administration was telling us it's $2.1 million, which I voted against at that time, $2.1 million, and the county's going to match it. It was almost a guarantee the county was going to match it. And now we're going to get ourselves into a situation where we're putting up a deposit, and then everybody's going to be coming back around saying, well, we've put up the deposit, we've spent $1.5 million, we're either going to lose this taxpayer money, or or we're going to have to spend another $2 or $3 million. And I will not do it. I'll tell you all right now, I will not vote for that. Even if there's $1.5 million deposit down, I won't do it, because I'm not doing business with a gun to my head. That's my philosophy at my store. It's my philosophy here. I think that's a really, really bad deal. I think this whole thing's a bad deal. I think, if the county wants to give it to us, give it to us. Let us have it. But for us to lease it and handle the burden of everything and they still own it, it just doesn't make sense to me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Good, and then Director Rigo.
Mayor, let me yield to Director Rigo.
Okay, Director Rigo, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Director Good. I'd like to make a motion to table item 3A and 3B and direct administration to utilize the existing $2.1 million appropriation to make a good faith, to negotiate making a good faith deposit to secure the purchase of the slides.
And I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Are we tying all those things together?
Yes.
There's a motion to table item. Yes.
Do we need to let the 3B people speak before we do a motion to table so that we can still be heard?
I had to work, I'm sorry. I really wanted to.
Well, we probably should consider these separately, since there's a lot of confusion about
Okay, so let's vote on A.
Hey,
Okay,
And the motion is to table.
Motion to
table item
table
A,
A.
yes,
Jared,
sir.
is that your motion?
There's a motion and a second to
Hold
table
on.
A.
I mean,
Jared made the motion.
there's a valid motion and a second on the table.
Yes.
In the spirit of conversation and collaboration, I will withdraw that motion, and I will make a motion to table 3A pending. I think these items have become so intertwined in the conversation. I mean, I think if there are a couple more people that have thoughts to share, I wouldn't mind hearing, now,
I mean, it doesn't need to wait until.
Let's just let the citizens speak.
Let's do that. Okay, why don't we do this? Madam Clerk, let's hear those that are here to speak on item 3B.
Or there's only 3A arriving.
So Melissa Woodall would be the first. Kind of moved them all in one.
Spending over $4 million on water slides for a park that's reasonably new and has been very recently improved is out of line with the citizens' priorities. If you ask Fort Smith residents what needs improved in our city or what they'd spend on if they were turned loose with the city budget, you'd probably hear a lot about water leaks, water rates, sewer repair, stray dogs, street repair, reducing property crime, and maybe a little about parks like dog parks or pickleball courts. But I'd bet money the number of people who would mention new water slides or say that the water park needs to double in size right now would basically be zero. That's $4 million that could go to something that benefits more residents more frequently. We're a city where 73% of our public school students qualify for federal free or reduced lunches. That's a lot of families that probably don't have a ton of wiggle room in their budgets for water park tickets. They don't get much, if any, use out of it. So buying the slides is the poor subsidizing a literal playground for the rich. I get that the discount on slides is really tempting. I love a sale. And saving money is often a part of good stewardship of public funds. But when we responsible adults budget in our own households, we still prioritize the needs over the wants. If I'm struggling to pay the light bill and the car's transmission is about worn out, I don't go buy a new Gucci handbag, even if it is really on sale. The board has to behave like adults and budget for the residents like the residents budget for themselves.
Tara McDaniel, would you like to speak on this one? Okay. And then Rick Murphy, you have down 3B as well. Would you like to speak again?
As I'm listening, and this is the basis of my recommendation about tabling, is there's a need for collaborative discussion with the county. You all are having this conversation, you're all pissed off. They're having their conversation about expecting the city to do something. Let's talk to each other, not try and resolve it unilaterally. Please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Taryn Hargrove.
Hello. I've never spoke here before. This is exciting and nervous. Yay. I would fall into that poverty category. I've been once to Parrot Island, and it was somebody else's birthday party. There's more things that we could do with the money that I think more citizens would be a part of. If it's about generating revenue, we could start putting solar on a bunch of our city buildings and generate money that way. You know how much solar you could get with a couple $1 million? Yay. She also said, it's for the children. If it is, you'd feed them at school. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
And next we have James Gilpin. I think I said that correctly.
Hello, directors. My name is James Giltz. I'm a citizen and voter here in the city of Fort Smith. I'm not originally from here. I moved here as a part of my job and have turned down many other jobs since that pay more and are in more desirable areas because I love the city. And what I do not love to see is the city looking to throw money at something that, by our own admission, has not generated any revenue for us and is, in fact, a cost sink. Parrot Island does not, when I talk to people from all over the state, all over the area, I've got friends from Dallas to Indianapolis, no one ever says they want to come to Fort Smith for a water park. What I do see is a lot of people in the city actively struggling. I'm fortunate enough to work for a large company and I'm not personally struggling. but I see people unable to pay their water bills. I see people walking by overflowing sewage areas. We actually have a sewer issue right across from Mercy, the primary facility that I work at, that every day smells terrible as we walk by. It is a public street next to neighborhoods, next to businesses. I've been here since 2016 and it's never been fixed. I don't want to see money getting thrown into something that does not generate revenue and the citizens don't want when we have real problems in the town that can be fixed with this money. As I mentioned, I also work for a very large business. It's not important what it is, but I write business cases for our national level company. And if I throw out a business case saying that we need to drop $200,000 on this new equipment and we're not going to make any money off of it, I would get laughed out of the room. I think it's absurd, and we should all vote no on this vociferously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I got here late also. Joe, you did not. Yeah, yeah. Oh, did you? Okay. I thought I saw you at the start.
Joey McCutcheon, Fort Smith. I think it's a matter of timing. It just seems like that maybe we're a little tone deaf when we just increase water rates. Now we want to spend $4.2 million on a water slide. Not to mention, and it's always other people's money. It's our money. I mean, it's really not your money. It's our money. And then I read last week or week before last, you spent $2.1 million to bail out a person who had land related to the Air Force project. That's $2.1 million of our dollars. And I heard Director Morton say that we can expect more of the same. That's a lot of taxpayer dollars. We just increased water rates. Now tonight, you're going to vote on paying the federal government $590,000 for sanitary sewer overflows. 20 million gallons. In fact, 20,748,000 gallons of raw sewage being released into our environment. And Director Good, you know where that's flowing? That's flowing to the north side of town. That wastewater is flowing, all the floods you've talked about, that water is flowing to the north side of town. And much of it, based upon the penalties that we're seeing, is flowing into our streams, into our rivers. So to me, it's a matter of priorities. And it's a matter of listening to what the citizens are telling you. We're not talking about doing away with the water slide. We just don't want another, as Director Kat Savis said, we don't want another softball field due to lack of consideration and lack of thought. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, can anyone else sign up to speak?
No.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to reoffer my amendment from 5 minutes ago.
You recognize.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to table items 3A and 3B and direct administration to utilize the existing appropriation to negotiate a good faith deposit to secure the purchase of the slides.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I really thought that $2.1 million was specifically tied to the county approval. And I'm not finding it in my notes.
It's not. When you read the ordinance, it just says 2.1 for the 50% of the water park. It doesn't say tied to the county. So the appropriation that we did is not tied to the county.
Can somebody read it to me first?
It would be in the minutes or the ordinance, I guess. But it always, I mean, you know, you can't buy something that costs $4.2 million for $2.1. So to some degree, it's a moot point. But
Director Neil Martin.
Well, I feel as though if you allocate any dollars to this, you're tied. You're tied to it. If we allocate $2.1 million and we don't go forward, we're going to have to outlay some money to somebody. If we say 2.1 million, we secure it at that point. We've secured it. It's on its way. It's coming here. And then we've got to allocate additional dollars to put it in the ground and do the rest of that work. There's no allocating money and us not having to be out that money because we don't put the slides in, or we don't allocate more money to actually make the remaining purchase. So I don't know if allocating any dollars is the right thing to do.
Thank you. Director Rigo.
Thank you, Mayor. I mean, I'm just trying to build off of the work that was already done by the majority of the board last month on July the 9th. If intellectually or theoretically a person was comfortable with spending $2.1 million in a partnership, it's the amount of money is the same. And so if the spirit behind the motion that I made was an even smaller, utilizing an even smaller portion of $2.1 million to enter into, like what was, I think, wisely suggested, a negotiating phase to see if the overall price can even come down. And I just made the motion for flexibility, utilizing the vote that was already taken. I mean, presumably administration can talk to and try to negotiate a lower price before sending any money. I just trying to build off the work and the vote that was already taken last month.
I mean, I guess my thought is we're allocating dollars to this.
You already have.
I don't know if, we allocated dollars on the assumption that the county was going to do the same thing. And if they don't do anything, it dies. In this case, we're the sole buyer. We're putting money down on it. We're committed.
I mean, it is different than the ordinance, because the ordinance says, whereas the cost of $2.1 million is 50% of the cost to purchase the slides, perform necessary work and installation. Yeah. I suppose it should have said, in partnership or something to that effect, but it doesn't, which leaves the door open for 50% and then another 50%. So I'm glad I voted against this, because I feel like this whole board's been conned.
Director LaVon Morton.
Well, we're really not committed till we sign a contract. The ordinance doesn't commit us because we can always pull it back until you pay the money. Now, the proposal on the floor is to make a down payment. A down payment is very different than a deposit. A deposit's refundable, and as I said before, you give it to a trustee. But I am not in favor of going forward with any cash expenditure until we further negotiate. Now, we're hearing a lot of no's, and we can always say no, and we also can say no to whatever the administration brings back to us. I'm willing to give them a chance to give the administration a chance to negotiate a really good deal. But the lease consideration and the purchase of the slides are different things. If we don't have the lease resolved, we will never be able to expand the park at all. And we may not want to do that. We may not want to commit to that. Again, we've got to see what the costs are for 19, 22, 23, so far in 24, and the deferred maintenance to make an informed financial decision on this. And, I like the amenity. At the same time, we are constrained financially. I'll say that. I mean, that's what I look at. We are constrained financially, and I voted for 2.1 million, and I could say we could make it a little bit more than that, but as far as making the numbers work, we can't do much more than that. We're limited, but I'm not in favor of putting any cash in anyone else's hands at all until we have the lease resolved and until we have a fixed purchase price that we can afford, and this board votes on both of those.
Exactly right.
And if we can't afford it, we vote no. So,
Director Rigo.
And I feel the same way. And just for clarity, what I requested or made in the motion was the tabling, and then to direct administration to utilize the existing appropriation to negotiate, and I believe it was your language, a good faith deposit pending board approval. I mean, we can add pending board approval to secure the purchase of the slides. I mean, I agree. I'm not saying this does not come back to us. And deposit is the preferred term you said, right, Director Morton?
Well, it
Versus
is,
down
but
payment.
again, it's got to be held by a third-party trustee, so we are sure that the manufacturer doesn't spend the money. I mean, the only way I would do a
sure.
deposit on this is if we could say, well, we changed our mind and it immediately comes back to us. So it would have to be a bank or some third party. Now, I honestly think that in the negotiation process, a deposit is not necessary if we negotiate in good faith. I mean, the other party, if we know we're going to put the money in trust in a deposit, it's not doing them any good, so they're not going to care. They're anxious to sell it, and that's the only thing they care about. So they don't care if we make a deposit or not, unless they get it in their hands.
Thank you. I thank Director Good and Director Christina Casavage.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm also in favor of tabling. Just a couple of things, just for background information, because some of the topics obviously led to dealing with the affordability factor of Parrot Island. So, because you may not know, I spoke to the return on investment. You know, return on investment is not always financial. We know those. We see the benefits of things like parks and the convention center, which are called loss leaders. Those are things that we invest in and pay lots of money to have here in Fort Smith that we pay into and help support. But getting back to the cost factor, so all nonprofits get a $13 rate, if not more, for Parrot Island. You know, I sat on the Boys and Girls Club board as well as the BOST board and know for a fact that nonprofits do get this discounted rate, if not more than $13. And that's $13 instead of $25. Schools pay for a $5 ticket. There are 20 different schools that take advantage of school days at the end of the year, field days at these discounted rates. So just to put it in perspective, this is a choice entertainment facility if you so choose to go to. If you so choose to go. If we're concerned about our children and those other folks that are in the medium to low income area, feels like the Boys and Girls Club youth. Granted, they have opportunities to go as well at a discounted rate. You know, and if we can do more for the people, and I'm not going to just say north side because there are, you know, challenged people dealing with money issues like, I'm on a fixed rate, and I've been working, you know, for FedEx for 30 years, and I am on a fixed income. You know, do I choose to spend my tax dollars going to Parrot Island? I might once in a while, you know, but again, it's a choice. But anyway, I just wanted to put that out there, that there are plenty of opportunities, and if we want more, we request more. and just because I need to, because Joey McCutcheon spoke directly to me about sewage going to the north side. I've been advocating for the north side since before I got on the city council. Every time that I had an opportunity to speak on flooding or any other kind of opportunities on the north side, I have. The sewage just doesn't go to the north side. You know, we've seen overflows all throughout the city. So just pointing to the north side and calling me out is disinformation. Thank you.
Director Christina Casavage.
You know, I guess a little bit of my confusion is that when I approached Carl about power washing the water towers, you know, they don't look good. They don't show well in the city. And I've had numerous, you know, people, realtors, things like that approach me. I think last week I had 3 different people reach out to me about the water towers. And, you know, I understand it might be quite expensive to paint them all, but, you know, even just to power wash them, I was told we can't afford it. And so now we can afford $4.2 million on water slides, but we can't afford to invest. I think maybe it was about $300,000 to do something that would improve the look of our city. You know, so that's where I really have a tough time with a lot of this. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Director Neil Martin and then Director Kevin Settle.
I have a question for Director Morton. Director Morton, so in looking at our financial statement, the general fund budget, as amended at the end of 24, there should be $29 million in fund balance. In looking at that, that makes me feel like we have a healthy fund balance. Are there things that are not included here that you're aware of that?
Well, the $2 million that we spent on the real estate is not included in that because we just appropriated that money last week. I think that's accurate, Mr. Richards. Is that right? Is he shaking his head? Yes. So that's not included there. Plus,
so that gets us to 27.
I would say a budget's always an estimate. And again, I feel like we're going to be requested to do other things in connection with the F-35 program, and we don't know what those things are. Truthfully, we sometimes hear about these things third hand, and so I just think we have to be fiscally careful. $29 million is a good balance, but we know our sales tax revenues have leveled off. And they're actually going down a little bit, not by a concerning amount so far. But all these things are things we have to consider. And this year we bought and we needed a building for the police department to have as a precinct on the south side of town. And they're going to have to renovate that next year.
Right.
And
that should be included, though.
That is included, but I don't know that the renovation and the turning it into a training center is included. And we're going to, the idea is to make it a repair facility for smaller vehicles. And I don't think that's anywhere in what we've seen either. So there are things, plus we have to make a decision on, and I'll just say this out there, we're going to have to make a decision on the Garrison Avenue building. We're locked into a lease right now on a building where we don't have enough space. And we need to either lease additional space, which is going to be more cost, or we need to buy the building. And if we buy the building, it's going to be $3.5 to $4 million. That's not in there either. So there are things out there that I know we're going to incur over time that we have to be thoughtful about and careful of. So that's my answer. So that's the reason I'm saying 2.1, we can squeeze that in. We cannot manage 4.2 under any circumstances.
Okay. I was just, and I wanted to see.
It's a fair question.
I wanted to see where you were coming from with that. Right now, we're at a 42% fund balance. If nothing were to change, we also know we know, like Director Morton said, there's $2 million that are not accounted for here. So that drops that fund balance percentage-wise and dollar amount. So I just wanted to get clarification on that. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Director Settle.
Thank you. A couple of things. Usually the fund balance is usually higher than what's estimated because we save in the funds in the city. We don't appropriate everything. So typically you'll see $2 or $3 or $4 million higher than what was estimated. Director Good and I have been on the board long enough to see that. The slides will be a 25 to 30 year investment. So it's not like they're going to be put up and thrown down 2 weeks later. It's going to be there for the next 25 to 30 years. It's going to be there a long time. It'll outlast me. It'll probably my grandkids will be able to go on those slides. The last is a personal story. So my dad, back in the 80s, only could afford a vacation for Kevin and his brother Jeremy. And that vacation was a season pass to Wet Willie's Water Slide.
Wet Willie's, yes.
$50 for a Wet Willie's Water Slide pass. Rode down the mats and the concrete. Back in the 80s, $50 was a lot of money. Today, you can go to Parrot Island Waterpark for about $53 to $58 for a season pass. Sometimes this place is the only place people take their vacation to. It's it. You can tell it. That's all they can afford. They buy a season pass and they use it 20, 30, 40 times throughout the year. Because that's what they can do. That's what my dad did for me back then. And I thank him for that because it kept me on the straight and narrows and allowed me to get a degree, allowed me to get a job, and allowed me to be a city director. That's my personal story. So anytime I get an opportunity to help kids in this city, I'm going to do it. Because I want to make sure that every kid in this city has an opportunity that I had. And I always thank my dad for the Wet Willie's Water Slide. Because that was such a great summer. Wet Willie's, you got skinned up, burned up, the mat on the top of the second curve, third curve. That's what it was. And everybody knows where it was. It's across Rogers Avenue off where I lived at. So literally you could walk over to it. And that's the reason I'm so passionate about this, is because my dad did that for me, and I thank him for it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second on the floor to table this.
Mayor?
Yes, Director.
I just need some, on this motion, can somebody read that back? I heard something about money being involved.
Motion to table items 3A and 3B and direct administration to utilize the existing appropriation to negotiate a good faith deposit to secure the purchase of the slides pending board approval.
Well, so we're spending money without a lease is what we're saying.
No.
I just think maybe we need to separate the two things.
Yeah, I'm not going to
Motion-
vote for appropriating any money.
Well,
Maybe-
I'll be happy to table it.
There's a motion that needs to be addressed, and if it fails, then there could be succeeding motions.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Director Settle?
Yes.
Martin?
No.
Rigo?
Yes.
Good?
Yes.
Morton?
No.
George Katsavas?
No.
Christina Katsavas?
No.
It's defeated.
So
Okay, I make a motion to table item 3A,
Second.
the lease.
Second.
Okay. There's any discussion on the motion? Okay. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Director Martin?
Yes.
Rigo?
Yes.
Good?
Yes.
Morton?
Yes.
George Katsavas?
Yes.
Christina Katsavas?
No.
Settle.
Yes.
It's approved, 6 in favor and 1 opposed.
We'll entertain a motion on B.
Well, I'd make a motion to table item B.
Second.
Okay, exactly what are we tabling here? It's the entire motion to purchase
Yes. the entire
without the deposit, right?
motion. The entire motion.
Correct.
With no
deposit.
deposit.
Right.
Correct.
No deposit. Okay, I vote yes for tabling
We're
with
looking
no
for a second.
deposit.
So the motion is to table B altogether.
Altogether
No-
with no money spent
no money
anywhere.
Yeah, but I got a point of order. How long are we tabling this for?
Let's say 30 days to give adequate time for negotiation. Is that reasonable?
Point of inquiry, if you just say you table something, our clerk is trying to...
At least 30 days.
Our clerk is trying to communicate something with us.
If motion to table is offered without a specific date for it to come back, it automatically comes back at the next regular meeting.
Well, I propose that my proposal is we table it to the date of the second meeting after this date.
Second.
I just don't know what we think is going to change.
Well, okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Director Rigo?
Yes.
Good?
Yes.
Morton?
Yes.
George Katsavas?
Yes.
Christina Katsavas?
No.
Settle?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
It's approved, 6 in favor and 1 opposed.
And Mr. Deputy Administrator, I'd like for a note to be made and referenced along to the City Administrator, that we would like to see him working, as has been mentioned many times during the debate, to see if there's not some negotiating that could take place to have a different cost structure put for our consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. This time we will go to item number 4.
Item number 4 is a resolution accepting consent decree stipulated penalty settlement with the United States Department of Justice and Environmental Protection Agency and authorizing payment. Coming to the podium is Lance McAvoy, Director of Water Utilities.
Good evening. On April 17th of this year, we received a notice of potential assessment of stipulated penalties from the United States Department of Justice on behalf of the Environmental Protection Agency. These were as in accordance with Section 12, Paragraph 115 of the 2015 Consent Decree. At that time, what was a potential assessment was $739,500. That was based upon self-reported 481 events that spanned a period of 627 days And that period was from July 1 of 2021 through January 1 of 2024. So you're talking about a 2.5-year period. Last year, you'll remember we had some stipulated penalties for SSOs assessed, and that was from the beginning of the consent decree through June 30 of 2021. EPA and DOJ nationwide have begun going back and assessing the stipulated penalties for SSOs in consent decrees. So this is not anything that is potentially different. You know, Fort Smith is not being treated any different than Kansas City or Shreveport or any other city that might be under a consent decree. We reviewed the number of sanitary sewer overflows asserted by DOJ and EPA, and on May 15th, we submitted the results of that for their review. During the review, several errors were noted, including duplicate SSO reporting, the number of days an overflow occurred, and we also discussed in there items that had SSOs, wet weather SSOs, due to heavy rainfall events that exceeded any of the storm events that we would normally design to. So if you'll remember right, we had one storm where we had 2.5 inches of rain in 15 minutes. There's not a system that I know of in the United States that could handle that amount of rainfall. I mean, we had localized flooding, and it flooded other areas. So we brought that to their attention. Also in that were SSOs that were caused by damage from the 2019 flood that was still being repaired. DOJ, after reviewing that, came down to $590,000. Fort Smith, again, went through and negotiated to the best of our abilities to come up with an amount of $590,000, which is $140,500 less than the initial amount that could be assessed. Talking with our attorney and looking at what is the best we can do, we feel that this is an appropriate amount and we should accept it. I'll stand for questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any citizens' comments, Madam Clerk?
We have Joey McCutcheon.
In the letter from the government, they say that there are other violations. I'm wondering, what are the other violations, and do we have an estimate or a letter? They say they're going to send another letter potentially. Do we know how much those additional violations will cost the taxpayers? Thank you.
Madam Clerk, was there anyone else?
No, sir.
Lance, did you have any comments? Okay.
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this time we'll entertain a motion to adopt the resolution.
So move.
Thank you. Any board comments? Director LaVon Morton.
Okay, Mr. McCutcheon asked a fair question. So if there's a reference to additional penalties, I think we would all like to know what that refers to and the amount, if we know.
I do not have the amount because they have not given that, but that is for the fact that we have missed deadlines, which this board has been well aware of due to things like COVID, the flood, supply chain issues.
Well, and also because they have never adjusted their schedule, and this doesn't apply to SSOs, for the additional 5 years they gave us in 2020, which would move some of those deadlines back, and that's a factor as well. So, okay. Well, certainly these penalties are disappointing. There is one comment in the memo here that I do not believe is accurate, and I think this maybe comes from our attorney in Virginia. It says that settling the claim will generate some goodwill with the agency as we seek to resolve the consent decree and modification. You know, a year ago or some period of time, we paid $800,000, and we kind of thought the same thing. We wrote a check for $800,000, and we thought, well, we should should find a better attitude the next time we have a conversation. I've seen no evidence of that, none. And based on where we are now, I don't expect to. I would also say that the board packet included a list of the actual items we're being penalized for, and a lot of those are grease, okay, that are grease and debris that are blocking the sewer lines and causing the overflow. I mean, I know there's some infiltration from rain, but so what could we do, starting now to put together an effort to try to clear out all these grease issues so that we didn't have these overflows again, and we're not talking about these penalties again in 25 and 26 and 27 and on and on and on. What can we do?
So we are currently doing education because most of these are occurring in residential areas. These aren't from our restaurants in town or what we call food service establishments. These are residential areas that most of this occur, where people have dumped grease down their drain. We have
well, excuse me for interrupting, but if the grease is already in the line, education will help the future.
We clean, I'm sorry, forgive me for interrupting. We have targeted cleaning, so where we have had multiple issues with grease, we go in and we clean it and we clean it and we clean it and we do it on a regular basis.
Okay.
But the aspect is you can clean every week, but if people keep dumping it down there, it adheres to the pipe, and you still end up having to go back and clean. We have over 500 miles of pipe of different sizes to clean, and there's just not a way to clean every foot of pipe in a time frame. So we do a targeted cleaning, but we also do a standard cleaning. We showed in one area where we were having a lot of SSOs, once we cleaned the pipe, we went 2 years without an SSO backup. But then after about 2.5 years, we had another one. So we had to go back in and clean it out. And it was in a residential area, and it was due to fats, oils, and grease. So educating people as well as our targeted cleaning program is what we are doing to try to reduce the number of sanitary sewer overflows due to fats, oils, and grease.
So what I'm hearing is we're never going to get away from this problem because people are not going to not do that, and we don't have a program to regularly clean the pipes. Is that a fair statement?
We don't have the equipment, the manpower, or the program, correct.
That's all I have.
Director Christina Casavage.
So how much would it cost if we did want to create a program?
So the equipment is roughly $750,000 per piece of equipment. We are looking at a team of 3 people, and to do the whole city in a year, I would probably need, I couldn't even estimate what the number would be.
Would you say less than 4.2 million?
No. It would be greater than that.
Okay, so we self-report, so we should know, I appreciate the sheet that you handed out to us, and I appreciate the education you're doing on the fats, oils, and grease. I took my daughter to the cooking class at Creekmore a couple of weeks ago, and we got the gift bag with the at-home grease trap, and so I really did appreciate that. That was really nicely done. And I know this covers, I think, between 21 and the end of 23. So is it always going to be multiple years, or will we ever be caught up where we're going year by year? I mean, we self-report, so we should kind of know what our penalties are going to be, correct?
And you are correct, and I'm actually tracking that for this year, and what we have been told, and please note that it is told, not in writing, is that there will be the assessment of penalties at the end of every year. Of course, that's when the current administration, if another administration change occurs, they could stop that, and then we're back to where, we see what happens in 4 years type situation.
Where does this payment come from? Is it the general fund? Or
No, this comes from our 6505, our capital improvement fund.
So how does that affect our bond covenants?
That would be a question for Andy Richards on how this would affect bond covenant. I believe it does impact our debt service ratio, but 6505 affect our bond covenant and that service ratio?
Whether we pay it out of 6505 or our operating fund is still going to get charged as an operating expense to the system as a whole. So when we do the annual audit, that'll be included as operating expenses and it'll go against our debt service coverage.
Okay.
So it does have an impact on our ratios.
Okay, well, that's good to know. You know, I've met with the ombudsman from the EPA, and we've gone and we've, been to DC, and we've met with the EPA, and they seem so, agreeable to working with us, and they seem like they really understand that we're making a good faith effort, to make these improvements. And then, we get these penalties. And when we've met with our congressional delegation, they'll say this makes no sense. It just goes and sits in the Treasury. You could use this to be reinvesting in your system. And so, I agree with Director Morton. I share a little bit of that frustration, with this process. And I know that's not for you. I just wanted to say publicly that, I am frustrated because, I thought when we met with them in, I believe it was April, they seemed really, agreeable to working with us and changing some of the terms of our agreement, and it just doesn't seem like that's happened.
I feel your frustration. I really do.
Because I really think if we could put that money back into our system, that would be, some of these things, it's caused by climate change. And it's like, we have a political party in power, and they're saying, climate change, climate change, climate change, until we're saying it's climate change, and then it's like, oh, well, no, it's not climate change. That doesn't make sense to me either. So, very frustrating to me. Thank you.
Director Settle.
Director Morton, you're right. Citizens, you can educate them, but if they decide to go take a bag, some oil and fry some fries and then pour the oil down the drain, and there's nothing going to stop that. This is going to happen year on year. I'm very disappointed that they didn't say take the money, put it towards consent decree instead of sending it to some. That's disappointing. And so, unfortunately, this is what you get. Thanks, Mayor.
Director Neil Martin.
Well, the one thing I don't want to get lost here, I know Director Morton brought up grease, and that kind of seems like what we're talking about here, but there's a whole lot of other things here that are causing this. What have we addressed these? Have we done the things that needed to be done to fix these here? Oh, I'll stop there and then I'll ask.
So if there's, we clean the pipes. If it's a dry weather SSO, when that occurs, to stop the overflow from occurring, we have to clean the pipe. So at that point in time, we remove the debris. That's how we know it's debris or grease, because we're fixing that aspect.
Is there a different? I see debris and I see grease. Debris doesn't sound like grease to me.
You're correct. It would be rocks. It would be just that, debris from something that somehow got in. Somebody flushed. I'll give an example of something that made national headline news in the UK years ago. It said giant poo stops up sewer, and it was a 6-foot tall Winnie the Pooh that somebody had thrown down a manhole. That would be debris. That would be garbage that doesn't normally go down. Wipes, the flushable wipes that you've heard so much about in the news that aren't flushable. It's that type of stuff can get caught on or snagged and then build up sediment, and that becomes a debris.
Some of these are hundreds of thousands of gallons.
Those are wet weathers.
Are we addressing these, and how are we addressing these?
So, Basin 10 and 14, phase 1 that we did with the ARPA funds, that addressed some of these.
How many of these?
I would have to go back, but I believe it was about 22 sites, or 22 SSOs.
According to these numbers here, when DOJ assessed the stipulated penalties, in terms of the number of days, that's 76% of the days we're having an SSO event. According to us, in terms of the days, 504 days, we're having an SSO 84% of the days. That's like every single day we're having an SSO.
So please note that some of these are multiple days per site, and that's a wet weather SSO.
well, I'm just saying the events, it's a number of days.
I understand. So I'll give you, I actually just finished doing it. July, we had 3 sanitary sewer overflows. One is actually on the east side of town. It was wet weather. The other 2 were dry weather. One was due to the fact that when we were doing some smoke testing, it caused a toilet to throw some of the clean toilet water out, but that's considered an SSO, and we had to report that because the customer reported it to us. So we're bound by our licensures and all of that to do that.
That's considered an SSO?
That's considered, if it backs up into a house, it's considered an SSO. If it's due to work that we're doing or haven't done.
I mean, I can see that. You've got some of these that are 1 gallon, small gallons, but a lot of these aren't. I mean, these are thousands of gallons. A lot of, I mean, I stopped circling I figured I'd get to the bottom of this list of the ones that were in the 100,000 gallon range, and I stopped because I had more pages to go. I'm still scrolling.
Well, and
just to get there.
Yeah, and the 100,000 gallons, those are going to be the ones that are wet weather, and those were ones that were due, a lot of them were due to the fact that it was abnormally high rainfall, or we had infrastructure that was down. Sunnymead, the Sunnymead EQ basin was down until I believe the beginning of 22. So we didn't have, it may have been mid-22, we didn't have that luxury of having that to capture a rain event. So where we had experienced overflows in the past, we experienced them again because we couldn't divert that flow to Sunnymead.
I do grow tiresome, as do all the citizens and as everybody up here, of these types of things that don't get us anywhere. It's just a reminder of the 30 years or 40 years of lack of attention of prior boards, this body, and it's just frustrating that it seems like we're always mired in it, and I don't see us getting out of it.
We're working towards it.
That's all, Mayor.
Director Levon Morton.
Okay, just to clarify that heavy rain goes in the storm system, which is completely separate. There's no crossover with the storm system and the sewer system, correct?
There isn't, to our knowledge. That's one of the parts that we're doing with
there's not supposed to be.
There's not supposed to be. We actually did find some early in 2015,
right,
and we fixed that.
I'm aware of those, yes. So the problem is when it rains, the leaks in the pipes let the water in the sewer system, which they're not supposed to do, and then the manholes let water in the system, which they're not supposed to do. Is that accurate?
Yes, and there's one other item, and that is where people have illegally connected things like gutters and area drains. That's what is called inflow. So what you're describing is infiltration. The water infiltrates the system. Inflow is where there is a purposeful, illegal connection to the sewer to drain stormwater into the sanitary sewer.
Okay. So what do other cities do with these kinds of things? We're not the only city in the United States that has the grease problem or the debris problem. What do they do?
They're doing the exact same thing we're doing.
Are they paying penalties?
If they are under I cannot speak for those that are not under a federal consent decree, because that is then up to the state on whether the state does it. If you are under a federal consent decree right now, you are, I'm going to say more than likely, you are going to be paying for all of your sanitary sewer overflows.
Okay, thank you.
Director Settle and then Director Christine Casavage.
Thank you, Mayor. It's kind of enlightening when you talk about a toilet splash and it causes an SSO. An SSO on the grounds, like if my house could be sewer backs up and plops a little bit of stuff in my yard, that's considered an SSO. Has nothing to do with anything but it's in my yard. If I report it, it causes us a fine. That's amazing. This goes back to the way the consent decree is defined. It goes back to the Waters of the United States rule, which I had a big problem with this thing because I think that right there, that definement of that rule, and it goes back to the Chevron doctrine that now the Supreme Court has challenged. So I think all this is interesting because in 1982, we were at an administrative order to fix the wet weather improvements, and we fixed all 22 issues, and now because of the consent decree, we've got this big monstrous of a thing, and now people are interpreting rules that aren't really governed by Congress because they haven't really spelled it out. If I say anything wrong, please speak. Tell me I'm wrong, but I think I'm right on this thing. So I think the way the Chevron doctrine and the Supreme Court has overturned that is going to change probably what happens with our consent decrees down the road. But it's very disappointing that we can't spend this $500,000 on consent decree work instead of giving it to bureaucrats. Thank you.
Director Christina Casavage.
Lance, would you say that some of this debris comes from ditches and easements and things that the city doesn't maintain anymore? I mean, you know, you drive around town and so many of them are overgrown. I get complaints all the time.
No, that would only be the storm sewers. That wouldn't be from the sanitary sewers unless there is a missing manhole that water is pouring in during a storm event. It would not be. There are issues with roots that grow into the pipes from trees. We do have an aggressive root control program to address that, but no, this debris is either intentionally put in, it's flushed down the drain, through the toilet by people, or it's the fact that some of the pipes are beginning upstream, are beginning to give way, and it has rocks and sediment that can flow down into it, and then it builds up. And usually if you see a lot of debris, we begin looking for, is there a problem with a pipe way upstream that's causing that? A hole in the pipe or something like that. Sinkhole forming is usually a secondary thing that we find with large debris deposits. But no, it's not due to unkept ditches.
So I know we've talked some about illegal taps. Do we get fined for those?
If we find them, we sever them, and it is illegal by city ordinance for the illegal tap. I don't believe there is a fine associated with it, because the issue that you may have is if you bought a house that was built in 1980 and somebody plumbed that in 1990 and you bought it in 2010 and you didn't know, it's not fair to fine you for something you didn't know about. That is part of our private service line, and when you hear us say that we're smoke testing, that's how we're finding a lot of these illegal taps. Is we drop a smoke bomb into a manhole, we've plugged the other ends of it, we force air through it, and then we look to see where smoke is coming out. And the only place that it should be coming out is if you look at the top of most houses, there's about a 2-inch white PVC pipe, one or two of them. And it should be coming out of that, and that is your air lock valve. It basically is made that way so that when you drain your tub or your sink, it doesn't bloop, bloop, it actually goes down. Air is allowed to be pulled in, so we look for that, and then the P-trap is what keeps the smoke out of the houses. So that's what tells us. And I will tell you, doing smoke testing, we have found illegal. One of the biggest ones we had was the old Whirlpool building. We were seeing huge flows back in 2015 and 16. And I went out and they were doing a smoke test to try to figure out where the broken pipe was. And it wasn't a broken pipe. The entire roof of Whirlpool was being drained into the sanitary sewer. We had them cut that connection that day, and a lot of the SSOs that we had from that day forward ceased to exist. So we are looking for those illegal connections through smoke testing and dye testing.
You know, I'm going to vote for this. I think we've done a lot of work towards building a better relationship when it comes to the consent decree, but I think there's still an opportunity here for us to have future conversations with the EPA and our congressional delegation, and we certainly need to stay top of mind with them on our concerns.
I agree, and I will say that I agree with everyone. Even our legal counsel has made it very clear to the Department of Justice that Fort Smith finds the fact that we are being provided a request for stipulated penalties counterproductive to us trying to fix. We need to invest that money into the system and not into Washington, D.C. And so that, to everyone that has voiced that concern, that's been a concern of both city administration, utility management, and our legal counsel.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Nita, I'm sorry. This time, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Director Good,
Yes.
Morton,
Yes.
George Katsavas,
Yes.
Christina Katsavas,
Yes.
Settle,
No.
Martin,
Yes.
Rigo.
Yes.
Approved, 6 in favor and 1 opposed.
This time we'll go to item number 5, which is our consent agenda. Mr. Dingman, you're recognized to cover that.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight we have 4 items on our consent agenda. The first is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute amendment and statement of work with PayIt LLC regarding a point-of-sale system solution. We have a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute agreement number 5 to agreement with Burns & McDonnell to provide engineering services for the Lake Fort Smith Transmission Line Phase 2. We have a resolution accepting the bid and authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with Denali Water Solutions for the Lee Creek Southwest Lagoon Cleaning Project. And finally, we have a resolution authorizing the mayor to make application to the Arkansas Department of Parks, Heritage, and Tourism for grant funding assistance for John Bell Jr. Park pickleball courts.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, did anyone sign up to speak on these items?
Ben Marks is here, and he's to answer any questions anybody has on item 5B.
Okay, thank you. This time we need a motion to, let me ask this, are any items on the agenda that you would like to have pulled for separate consideration? Director Newmark.
A and C.
A and C?
A and C also.
A and C?
Just for questions.
Okay, he asked to have them pulled.
Just for questions?
Just questions, yes.
Okay, A and C, any others? Okay, item A, questions?
So my question about this is, how is this different than what we're already doing with PayIt?
So this is to integrate, so this will be a point of sale, so we'll actually have the credit card scanner.
Where?
At Garrison.
So if somebody walks in to pay.
So this is for things like business license, building permits. This is a collection just for the business side when we're getting ready to move to City View. You know, I've got so many different programs in my head right now. I'm looking to Madam Deputy City Administrator because she's helped with this. We're moving to City View. City View has its own payment system. It has its own price that's associated with each payment, percentage, all of that. We are trying to go to a universal payment, one-stop shop, so everybody sees the same type of interface in the future. There is not an integrated solution right now, and that will come after, because we don't want to hold up City View's implementation, so we're going with a non-integrated payment system. So basically, it will be a drop box, uploads it, they can scan it, and scan the card, get the payment. We don't keep any of the credit card information so that we're compliant with all of the privacy laws. That's all 100% on PayIt. So that way they can then go to a more streamlined method until we get a integrated solution for payment for things like business license, building permits, anything that would be counted into the City View.
So we'll be going away from PayIt eventually?
No, everything will be under PayIt.
Everything will be under PayIt, not under City View.
City View is the software. City View is a different version of Munis.
Okay.
So City View deals with things like building permits, business permits. It's more of a permit software that is much better. And Ms. Rice, if you would mind giving a.
So City View is our development services software, and it's going to be what allows us to do online building permits. And in order for us to take payments,
You say online, so I'll be able to apply for a business license.
Yes,
online.
and in order for us to utilize PayIt with credit card transactions at point of sale, we are having to work with them to have it integrated into City View.
Okay.
And that's what this is for.
What's your ETA on City View coming online?
Oh, soon, hopefully.
Like-
This was a big issue.
Like
and
we
so
talking
hopefully hopefully we can start licensing by the end of the year.
Okay. That's been one of the things that I've heard of people wanting to apply online to do this. Okay. And then the 2.5% transaction fee, like we've done for anybody paying a water bill, it gets allocated to the department pays it, not our citizens.
As that currently stands, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any others on that item?
I have a question.
Director LaVon Morton.
So I was originally going to ask 2.5% of what? And because I viewed this as a change in the way we receive money from maybe cash to credit card, but really that's not what it is. It's just changed from one system of the credit card to another system of the credit card. So we're eating 2.5% on every one of these, and I would say that if you pay attention to restaurants these days, many restaurants now charge a fee for credit card usage. The city of Fort Smith is one of the very few entities in the whole state of Arkansas, the only government entity that doesn't charge for credit card use. The only government. We are the only one where the city absorbs the cost of the credit card versus the person paying some kind of a service fee, generally 2.5% or some amount like that. So we're doing something that no one else does, and it's costing us. Mr. Richard, you have a view of what our credit card fees are for the year? Any idea?
2023 was about $550,000 for the year.
Okay, $550,000, and most of that is absorbed in the utility department by credit card payments for utility bills. So I just would say that. And for the people who do not pay with credit cards, they are subsidizing the people that do pay with credit cards. So just a point of fact for the board.
Thank you. Any other questions on that item? Okay. Okay. If there are no further questions, we will entertain a motion to adopt all consent agenda items.
No, that's C. I had a question on C.
I had C as well.
That's C. Let's see what you have to say. Director LaVon Martin and Director Neil Martin.
That works.
Okay. The party that we are executing the contract with, and they're clearly the low bidder, Denali. You know, their name's been in the news lately for basically not being allowed to distribute any waste products in the entire state of Missouri anymore, and also in Crawford County and I think some other counties of getting in trouble with ADEQ. In fact, I think they wrote a letter to ADEQ that says we have violated Arkansas law with respect to these things, or your rules, or ADEQ rules and regulations. So my question is this: what are they going to do with this sludge when they take it off of the water system? Where's it going to go?
That is up to them, and that is part of the requirement of the bid that was done, is that they have to have a proper disposal.
And it says it absolutely affirmatively says they will properly dispose.
Yes, and they take responsibility for that.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Well, if it says that, that's good. Hopefully they'll do that.
Okay. Anyone else on that item?
Me, Mayor.
Yes.
So, Lance, one of the challenges that I brought up last time we met was smell. And I remember a few years ago, it was attributed to Lagoon cleaning in Crawford County.
Okay, that was not Backwash Lagoon. So if you remember right, when we were at Lee Creek, we walked out to the Backwash Lagoons.
There's the 4 pools right there.
Did you smell anything?
No.
Because there is no smell associated. It's mainly dirt and some polymer that's involved in that. What we were smelling over there was food product waste from, I'm going to go out on a limb, chicken manufacturer.
Okay,
lagoons.
Is it a lagoon?
Lagoons are anything that's man-made that holds water for treatment.
Okay.
That's the definition of lagoon.
Okay.
Whether it's a sedimentation lagoon to remove solids, which is what a backwash lagoon is, or a wastewater lagoon, which can be for commercial processing of chicken or whatever.
Okay. Yep.
You can actually have a metals lagoon for processing that. Barling and Lavaca have wastewater lagoons. That's how they treat their municipal wastewater. And so it really,
Is there a way to keep that smell down? Because we're the ones that feel it. For those Crawford County lagoons, is there a way for us to, or is there a way for those smells not to be as great as they are?
I will check into that. A lot of that deals with, again, and I think goes back to Director Morton.
I know.
And I did not see the article for Crawford County on Denali. I did see it in Missouri, and am very well aware of the Missouri issue because of Northwest Arkansas and some talks that I've had with my counterparts up there. But usually when you're doing it, you do what's called subsurface injection. So you actually inject it under the surface. You're almost plowing it so it's buried. But if you do it in the wrong time of year and it rains and that washes off, then that exposes it. So a lot of it deals with the weather pattern, the time of year that you're doing it, how deep you're injecting it, or are you doing a surface? And there are some places that allowed surface instead of subsurface injection. They allowed surface spreading.
All things that need to be taken into consideration when you're cleaning a lagoon.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, this time we'll entertain a motion to adopt all consent agenda items.
So moved.
So moved.
Second, please.
Second.
Okay. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Director Morton?
Yes.
George Katsavas?
Yes.
Christina Katsavas?
Yes.
Settle?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Rigo?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Approved, 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Okay, this time we'll go to the officials forum. I'm going to pass. Director Rigo.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say very briefly, a couple weeks back, I was calling Marty Shell from the Fort Smith port to congratulate him on a news story I'd heard about a $500,000 grant that they had received from the state. And Marty said, well, you need to shout from the rooftops when you get the opportunity that grant wouldn't have happened without our Deputy City Administrator, Jeff Dingman, and the presentation he made and the connections and the work that he's put in with that state commission that authorizes that money. So Marty was hugely complimentary of you, and we thank you as well, Jeff, for the hard work to secure that money to help our port. Thank you.
Here. Director Good.
Nothing, Mayor. Thank you.
Director Levon Morton.
I will echo Director Rigo's comments. We've started to have some success in our grants program. The $500,000 is the largest one, other than the $14.5 million, which is really large so far. But we have a really huge number of applications and grants in process. So we're making some progress there, and that money will help us. Now, one thing I want to ask Lance McAvoy about is, he's still here.
I don't see him.
Okay, I was curious about how many gallons of water we're using or processing each day because, it's been hot and dry, and I wanted to know about our capacity and any pressure issues. But so anyway, that's all I have.
We'll get someone to visit with him and get that too.
Okay.
Director George Katsavas.
Yeah, Mayor, I want to I can make a motion, can I? On officials forum? Okay. I'm going to make a motion. I want you to hear me out. Arkansas state law says that any city with under 1,000 acres of parks can only charge 3% hotel and lodging tax. Any city over 1,000 acres or more can charge an extra 1%, 4% hotel and lodging tax. We're at 3%. An extra 1% would bring in about $300,000 a year to the INP.
The hotels do not want that.
Can I finish?
Sure.
Thank you. So my proposal, well, it's not paid for by the hotels, it's paid for by the people that stay there.
I understand that, but I can tell you the hotels do not want that, just like the restaurants don't want food and beverage.
So my motion is to put on a study session is to annex Ben Geren Park minus their 25 acres for a jail into the city limits. To put on a study session to be discussed. Any interest or not, it doesn't matter. That's my proposal.
Ben Geren's already in the city of Fort Smith. It is in the city. It's owned by the county.
Right.
Read the leases.
No, it is.
Read the leases.
Jeff? Most of Ben Geren Park is not within the city limits. The park that includes Parrot Island Waterpark is, and the softball fields.
Okay,
we
well, the
built.
lease is not clear on that, I would say, but yeah.
One that's not within the city limits.
Okay.
Thank you. Director Christina Casavage.
Do you want
Was he making a motion? Do we need to
I
vote?
made a motion, I don't hear a second, but that's just something I'd like to discuss for the future.
Does he need a second or he needs 4?
He needs a second, then we need to vote. Yes, so we'll need
So
to
on
get,
study session, just 2.
You need 2 people?
yeah.
Okay. So, someone else, George, and who else? To put it on the study session.
Okay, no, that's fine, thank you.
Okay. Director Christina Casavage.
Last week, I mentioned the Bose building being vacant and using that as a possible location for animal services. And, I don't do social media a lot, but from what I hear, there's a lot of misinformation going on that building has already been allocated, and that's not true. The board would have to vote on that. We've not voted to do so. I do think that there are a lot of organizations that could benefit from this building, but I still wholeheartedly believe this is a solution to our animal services problem. So, I just want everyone to know this building's not been allocated to any organization. I know there's quite a few that may be interested in it. I know, some of these, it doesn't seem like anyone was interested in it until I brought it up last week. But I still believe that this is a solution to a problem. We have a very real problem, and it's a very real solution. So I just want to make the public aware of that we have not made a decision about the future of that building. Thank you.
Director Settle.
I'm good.
Director Neil Martin.
I'm good, Mayor.
Okay. Administrator Dingman. Okay. This time, we will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor? All right. Thank you very much.